Welcome back to my D&D TBR game. The 8-sided dice have chosen our first character, and today we begin following the story of Hope. She never knew her real name. By the time she was old enough to remember faces, she had already been abandoned. One day, an old sailor bought her from the people who claimed to own her. He wasn't kind because he had to be. He simply saw something in the frightened girl standing before him. She was quick, faster than most children her age. When he handed over the coins, he looked at her and said, "I hope you will be worth it." And from that day on, she became Hope. Life aboard the ship was not glamorous, but it was hers. The sailor never treated her like property. He taught her how to survive, how to observe, and most importantly, how to listen. Hope carried messages through the crowded streets, watched people without being noticed, learned which conversation mattered and which lies sounded closest to the truth. When the crew sailed, she stayed behind. Sometimes she worked in taverns, sometimes she helped at the House of Two Hands monastery. Everywhere she went, she listened. And everywhere she went, she felt out of place. One of her ears was pointed like an elf's. The other one was completely human. She hid both beneath her hair and spoke only when necessary. Belonging nowhere became something she quietly accepted. One evening, a letter arrived. For her. The first letter she had ever received. Hope couldn't read, so the old sailor opened it for her. Inside there were only a few words. The Yawning Portal and a lock of hair. Nothing else. Just a place and a question neither of them could answer. The sailor didn't like that. Something about the letter felt wrong. He told Hope what little he knew about the famous tavern and its owner, Durnan, but neither of them understood why someone would send such a message to a young girl. Then came the storm. The worst storm Hope had ever seen. Waves crashed against the harbor as if something beneath the water was trying to claw its way into the world. The old sailor rarely believed in omens, but that night he did. He handed Hope a pouch of coins and strange green medallion. He had bought it years ago and never understood it. The stone remained dull for everyone else, but whenever Hope was nearby, it shimmered with the same color as her eyes. He told her to leave, just to be safe. Hope stepped onto the docks. Moments later, the ships began to break apart. One after another, wood shattered, masts collapsed. The sea swallowed everything, including the only home she had ever known, and the old sailor vanished with it. Alone and carrying more questions than answers, Hope followed the only clue she had, the Yawning Portal. When she arrived, chaos waited for her. The streets were crowded, guards surrounded the tavern, people whispered about destruction, violence, and things no one seemed willing to explain. Clutching the strange letter, Hope stayed hidden in the shadows. Whatever had happened here, she wanted no part of it, at least not yet. Across the street stood the ruins of an abandoned building. Its entrance was buried beneath fallen stones, but part of the roof still stood. Hope climbed inside, found a corner and slept. The next morning she wandered the marketplace, buying food and listening to rumors. That's when she overheard a conversation. Someone mentioned Durnan and his old companions. A group who had once traveled with him, but now ran a tavern of their own. Without hesitation, Hope slipped between the barrels of the departing wagon and went to find them. That decision would change her life. The adventurers she found became the closest thing she had ever known to a family. Though not everyone agreed, Hope was quite sneaky, always disappearing at night. More than once she brought back troubles with her. Some of the group tolerated her, some found her exhausting. A few genuinely cared. An old barbarian named Andre and an Arakocra named Bergran. They showed her how to read, how to write, how to survive, how to defend herself. Together, they dragged Hope into adventures she never would have chosen for herself. For the first time, she felt the rush of danger, the thrill of uncovering mysteries, the excitement of stepping into stories instead of merely listening to them. But stories rarely end the way we expect. One day, a boy crossed their path, a thief and a liar. He tried to steal the strange green necklace Hope still carried. The group caught him, questioned him, and let him leave with warning. Everyone else moved on. Hope didn't. She followed him. Perhaps because she recognized something of herself in him, a child surviving however he could. Perhaps because she wanted answers, she tried to talk to him, but he continued with the lies. No one knows exactly what happened next, only that when the night ended, the boy was dead. And Hope's life changed forever. The evidence was never strong enough to prove murder beyond doubt. The judges offered a choice: stay out of trouble for 5 years or spend those years behind bars. During the trial, Hope learned another secret. The owner of the Yawning Portal, the legendary Durnan, was her father, and her mother was once been an elven princess. Both had vanished mysteriously. Neither could answer the question she carried. If Hope deserved anything, it was one last chance to make something of herself. So, Andre offered another bet. Let her spend 5 years behind the bar, instead of behind bars. And so Hope returned to the place where her journey had begun, the Yawning Portal. 5 years. 5 years of serving drinks, cleaning tables, breaking up tavern fights, and listening to adventurers tell stories that grew taller with every mug of ale. 5 years of watching people come to a Yawning Portal, searching for glory, treasures, and answers. And 5 years of finding none of her own. At 16, Hope had questions. Questions about the sailor who had raised her, about Durnan, the elven princess who was supposed to be her mother, about the strange letter that changed her life, and about the green medallion she still carried. Eventually she stopped expecting answers. Life became routine. Days turned into weeks turned into years. The questions remained, but the hope of finding answers slowly faded. But one rainy evening, something new stepped on Hope's door. Hope was cleaning near the great well of the center of the Yawning Portal when she noticed something unusual. One of the stones surrounding the well had shifted. Curious, she knelt beside it and pushed. The stone moved. Behind it was a hollow space, and inside rested a book. Old leather, worn edges, no title, no lock, more age than any book should have survived. Hope opened it. Blank pages, except for the first few. Those contained strange symbol and coded notes written in Thieves Cant. Fragments of names and symbols. None of it made much sense for Hope. She took the book to her room. Then one evening she opened it again and found words. Not many, only a few paragraphs. There was no title. The noise had finally stopped. No more shouting, no more magic, no more crushing stones, only silence. She wrapped her arms around herself and wondered how a place that had felt like home that morning could feel so unfamiliar by nightfall. Hope froze. This was a strange story. She copied every word into a piece of paper. The next morning she opened the book again. The page was blank. The story had vanished, but her copy remained. She started to think if the ledger is trying to tell Hope a story to entertain her, to warn her, or this is some kind of a joke. But she decided to start a journal, because if the story is going to disappear, she might keep them. Or maybe she have to try to write herself. She took an ink pen and tried to write into the ledger. The ink was sucked up in the pages and nothing was shown on them. The Hope decides to wait and see what will be the next thing that the journal will show her. So, after the dice chose Hope as our first character, I decided that this was a great opportunity to force myself to finally finish Legends and Lattes. I started in the beginning of February, and somehow it took me 4 months to finish it. For a long time I wasn't sure why, but near the end of the book I finally realized it. I'm actually convinced that this story didn't need to be set in a fantasy world, because the fantasy setting didn't add much to the experience. At its core, it was simply a cozy story about friendships, helping others, building a business, and a bit of a marketing. The story could have taken place in almost any city in the world. There wasn't much world building, no real magic system, and very little beyond the names of the fantasy races. It was still cozy and enjoyable read, but for me it ended up being a 3-star book. About the mechanics behind the Hope's character, for every book read from Hope's reading list, the mysterious book reveals a new story fragment. It may be a written memory, a symbol, an item, a name, or a map location. If the fragment is visual, a symbol, item, or a place, Hope rolls dexterity to see how accurately she recreates it in her journal. Hope may roll an intelligence check to understand what the clue means, whether she recognizes it, or who might know more about it. After each fragment, Hope may ask the ledger one question. If she succeeds the persuasion check, the ledger reveals an additional clue or hidden detail. Symbols, items, names, and locations from the ledger becomes Hope's keywords. When a future book matches one of the keywords, the ledger may continue the story instead of starting a new one. And because we finished a book from Hope's reading list, we received a story fragment from the ledger. Now we can continue with the next book on her list, and we are going to add one word from the fragments to Hope keywords. That word would be nightfall, or simply night. Because of the book we read, this is how Hope's story continues. After the text vanished, Hope got up and continued with her daily routine, but her thoughts were complete chaos. Andre noticed. Even though he wasn't regularly at the tavern anymore, he happened to be there that day. He watched as Hope mixed up orders, walked to the kitchen, and then returned to a table because she had forgot what the customer had asked for. He decided not to ask questions, just to watch. Later in the afternoon, things slowly returned to normal. That evening, while Hope was working behind the bar and the tavern was busier than she would have liked, a strange young man approached. He was looking for work. A bard. He wore well-made clothes, carried a lyre, and had something unusual resting on his shoulder. Hope studied him carefully. He looked 3 or 4 years older than her. There was something elvish in his face, but his ears looked human, most likely half-elf just like her. She pointed toward a small stage, currently buried beneath crates and barrels. "We haven't had any performers here so far. Would you mind coming back tomorrow? You'll play a private concert to me and my partner, and we'll clear the mess for you." "Great. Just tell me when I should come. And what's your favorite song, princess?" A cold shiver ran down Hope's back. "They are just words. He doesn't look local. There is no chance he knows anything. Around lunchtime, we can have lunch, talk, and then enjoy an entertaining afternoon. Deal. I'm Zane." "Hope. Nice to meet you, Zane. Until tomorrow." For now, that is where the story ends. And a little behind-the-scenes update while I was preparing this video and fight with some microphone issues, I'm already almost finished with the second on the Hope's reading list, The Bartender Between the Worlds. The funny thing is that a medallion appeared in the story and I immediately got excited because it felt incredibly relevant to Hope's own journey. So far, I'm enjoying the book a lot and the pages seem to be flying by. Even with a very busy schedule these past few weeks, I've managed to read 75% of the book in less than 3 weeks, which is actually a really good progress for me. Once I finish it, I'll add my full thoughts and reviews to the journal, and of course we will see how it affects Hope's story and what new clues might appear. I can't wait to find out which character the dice will choose next. Thank you for watching.